And this is the Honda CL500 Scrambler launch. So it's like a little Scrambler looking bike that's built on the Rebel 500 platform. We just talked about the Honda CB500X, same engine as that. So didn't get a massive good vibe from the vibes, you know, the sound of the engine with the 180 crank. It's just such a big thing for me now. I'm just like...
Yeah, it is a real sticking point for you, isn't it? The 180.
Yeah, I just...
180 crank. 180.
It just feels
270.
less
Come on,
soulful.
everyone.
Yeah,
270s.
I don't understand how difficult that is. Like,
wow.
Is it really difficult to change that?
I don't know. Or is it more reliable? Is it a simpler format? So
I guess this is one for the comments. Like, let's...
I don't know what it gives you over the other. For example,
look at all the new Suzuki 800s, the new Honda 750s, the MT-07, the CP2 powered bikes from Yamaha, all use a 270 crank because it feels nicer. The Bonnevilles, I mean, if we started to list all the parallel twins with 270 cranks like the Africa Twin, and you go on for quite some time, I maybe get it for these smaller capacity bikes where like there might be something cheaper or whatever, or like they don't really want to invest a lot of time in making substantial changes because like obviously you're lower value each bike. But one that's always made me quite curious about it is the 650s from Kawasaki. Like some of their most popular bikes in terms of volumes, presumably the Ninja 650, the Z650, the Versys 650. And to me, the one thing that would improve them massively and make them more comparable with those other parallel twins that we just mentioned is like a better sound and feel by just putting a 270 crank in it.
Yeah.
Now, how much of the engine do you have to change? Like, obviously you have to change it. Like the timing is obviously completely different, but valves are valves. Like pistons are pistons. Cylinder heads are cylinder heads.
Yeah.
Gearbox.
Yeah.
Like, can you just stick a different crank in that engine, change the timing? Obviously, it's not going to be simple.
If I commit to this answer, I'm going to sound like a moron, mate. Like, do you even know what an engine is?
I wondered if there was a capacity at which, like, a 180 runs better than a 270, because all the smaller parallel twins tend to be a 180, 650 and below.
Right.
Like these 500s and like I think the Kawasaki's, like the Z500 and Ninja 500.
So that's probably not a bad point then, is it?
But then Aprilia RS457, that CF Moto 450, I think they're 270s. So the mystery continues.
Those are older engine platforms, so maybe that's one of the biggest things possibly.
It's definitely a trend, isn't it? Parallel twins with a 270 crank. They're cheap to produce,
newer
versatile.
produced, like brand new models, practically all of them would be a 270-degree crank. So maybe it's just the fact that they're legacy bikes that they've still got the engine in production, that it's been around long enough that they're like, why change it?
You go down Fowler's where they stock multiple brands, and you've got between £7,000 and £8,000 to spend on a naked bike.
Yes.
And you ride an MT-07, a Hornet, you could get that from there, the Suzuki, and the Z650. Surely that is going to be one of the factors where you're just like, it feels a bit less spicy and sounds less good. And so, yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't just make that change. It just seems like...
Yeah, they certainly feel freer revving a little bit.
Just
and
sound
therefore
good.
A little lighter to get. Yeah, I mean, the sound is one part of it, but for me, if it comes down to sort of the engine performance, if I was to try and guess the feeling of it, it's the pull is a little bit freer revving.
This bike, though, really good, CL500. I would say that's one thing I'd love to change, especially because it's a retro Scrambler. That would make it feel more, I don't know, in keeping with the sort of aesthetic. People didn't love the looks on this bike. In the comments, people were like, I'm not sure I can... Yeah, the bike I tested had the white accessory handguards and high mudguard. And that's actually period. Like if you look at the Fantic Caballeros, they have that. But there was just something about the particular implementation that people weren't loving.
For sure. And there's something, I guess some people will like that. Then they'll like the nostalgia. They'll like the fact that it's authentic to what it should be or what they were. But then also you go, well, it is a new bike. Why not take a new stance on it?
I think I know why they didn't quite pull it off. Color. Because
paint it. Just paint it. It was just unfinished plastic. White.
It does look like that. But I think you're right. Like it's a retro throwback nostalgia play.
Yeah.
And it works on the Fantic Caballeros because the whole rest of the bike is a retro nostalgic
Yes.
like vibe. The CL500, it looks kind of modern as well.
Yeah.
And also the fuel tank is straight off a Rebel. It's got that slope backwards. It has kind of like a weird shape. The headlight has got like, it's round, but it's got 4 LEDs inside, so it looks modern.
Right.
And so it's kind of part modern, part retro. And maybe it
doesn't match either.
Because it hasn't convinced you it's old school.
Because it's not taking a stance.
It just looks like they're not painted.
Yeah. It's not taking a stance, yeah.
Good summary.